The nervous system is not the only system that delivers messages throughout our bodies. The endocrine system is doing something similar, only using chemicals instead of electrical signals. But because it's relying on chemical signals instead of electrical signals, the endocrine system is much slower than the nervous system. You can think of the nervous system signals like sending a text message, and the endocrine system like mailing a letter. The endocrine system has two main functions. It allows for communication between cells in the body, and it also helps regulate the internal environment and maintain homeostasis. Instead of electrical signals, the endocrine system relies on chemical signals. These chemical signals are hormones. We talked briefly about hormones when we talked about endocrine glands, where they are produced. Hormones are released into the circulatory system or other body fluids in response to an environmental stimulus, and they cause some kind of response to that stimulus in the target cells. Again, in animals, hormones are produced in the endocrine glands. Other organisms, like plants, may have different structures that produce hormones. In the endocrine glands, hormones are secreted by specialized cells known as endocrine cells. The endocrine system is made up of all the hormone-secreting cells in the body. These cells may be found densely packed together in endocrine glands, but some are also present individually in some tissues. Pheromones, such as the chemicals moths release to attract a mate, are considered ectohormones. Ecto means outside, so these are chemicals that are released from the body to communicate something to another organism, instead of relaying information inside an individual's body. Pheromones may communicate many different types of information. They may be used to mark territory or resources, like when your dog pees on a tree to mark it. They may be used to attract mates, and some animals also use pheromones to alert other animals of danger. So how do these chemicals, these hormones, transmit information? First, the endocrine cells respond to a stimulus, such as a change in environmental conditions, by releasing hormones into the blood or directly into nearby tissues. Those hormones are then carried to the target cells. When the hormone reaches the target cell, it binds to specific receptors on that target cell. So the hormone will not affect the other cells it passes by in its journey through the circulatory system. It can only bind to cells with the right receptors. Once the hormone binds to the target cell, it causes some kind of response in that cell, usually changing its function in some way. So, for example, the binding of a hormone may cause the cell to turn certain genes on or off, or to start or stop producing a certain protein. Now pause the video and answer this question from participation assignment 17. There are three different categories of hormones in the human body: amines, polypeptide hormones, and steroids, and they differ in their makeup. Amines are made from single amino acids. Polypeptide hormones are chains of amino acids, and steroids are made up of lipids. Different hormones bind to receptors in different parts of the target cell. Water-soluble hormones can't pass through the lipid bilayer of the cell's plasma membrane very easily, so they usually bind to external receptors on the target cell's surface. However, lipid-soluble hormones can pass more easily through that lipid bilayer. Because of this, they tend to enter the cell and bind to internal receptors. Whether a hormone binds to an external or internal receptor often determines what effect it has on that target cell. When amines and polypeptide hormones, the water-soluble hormones, bind to external receptors, they cause the receptor to change shape. This can lead to many different changes in the cell depending on the hormone. For example, a hormone might cause an enzyme to be activated, initiating or speeding up a reaction in a cell. It may change how permeable a cell's membrane is, making absorption or secretion easier. It also may alter proteins that bind to the DNA, which can cause changes in gene expression and the proteins being made by the cell. Because steroids usually bind to internal receptors, they often travel to the nucleus where they bind directly to the DNA. So steroids tend to affect cells by changing gene expression and protein production. Now pause and answer a few more questions before you go on to the next video.